بالقرآن سديدا، أحرف عربي مفيدة، بالقرآن سديدا، وبها أقرأ قرآني، وبها أقرأ قرآني، حتى يتم الإيمان. الله الله، حتى يتم الإيمان. الله الله، حتى يكمل الإيمان.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear viewers everywhere on the globe, I greet you with the best greeting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is your brother Mamdouh Muhammad talking today about a unique topic, the traps of the Satan. The word Satan may sound strange to a lot of people. Let me tell you that Almighty Allah created a wide variety of creatures. He created the humans, and He created non-humans as well. He created the angels, He created the Satan, He created animals, He created insects. Some of these creatures are seen by the naked eye, some others are not seen by the eye. However, we see their effect in a way or another. Today's topic is about the Satan, a creature that was created from fire, as Almighty Allah informed us in the Quran. He has the quality of seeing us, and we don't see him. At the same time, he does some of the things that we are going to focus on today. Most importantly, the traps that he makes for a human being. One quality of the Satan is that he promises people poverty whenever they want to pay a charity or they want to do something good, to participate in a project, especially it's a good deed project. He would encourage them not to do that. One other quality of the Satan, that he encourages people to talk about Almighty Allah without knowledge, because when people do this, usually they fall into the trap of talking nonsense about Almighty Allah. If you want to talk, you can talk about anything, but when you talk about Almighty Allah, you have to be very cautious. You cannot talk about Almighty Allah without knowing, without having some knowledge, and this knowledge would be either from Almighty Allah Himself, illustrated in the Quran, or illustrated in the traditions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean here, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Satan has many other qualities. I may come across them, encounter them, and touch upon them very briefly when I talk about the traps. These traps are 6 traps. Before I step into them, I'd like to tell you about one quality of the Satan, which is different from this perspective from the qualities of human beings in the way he thinks. The trap, the Shaitan, when he thinks on the most important things first to be done, not the little and small things that can be done. Usually we start with little things and we let them grow and grow and grow. The Satan starts from the most important thing, because once he succeeds with a human being, he's done with him. And if he does not succeed, he goes to another level, a lower level. So he starts from top to bottom. We start from bottom to top. These traps, that's why these traps are organized in a way to understand how the Satan, thinks. The first trap of the Satan is the trap of shirk, which means associating someone else in the worship of Allah. So some people would worship Almighty Allah. While they are worshiping Him, they would associate someone else with Him. The second trap is the trap of bid'ah, which literally means innovation in religion. Thirdly, the trap of major sins. Fourthly, the trap of minor sins. Then number 5 is the trap of the trivial, doing trivial things. Then finally, the trap of doing the less rewarding than the more rewarding acts. Let me go back and elaborate on them. The first trap that I mentioned is the trap of associating someone else with Almighty Allah. We know that every human being is born on Tawheed, that means worshipping or pre-programmed to worship Almighty Allah alone. When a human being reached the age of puberty, at that time when a human being takes his or her decision, this important decision is affected by the Satan. Of course, the educational background of a human being may play a great role in this decision. So here, instead of a human being is let alone to continue worshiping Almighty Allah alone, rather the Satan would whisper and inject his evil ideas to the brain of a human being and to convince a human being to worship someone else with Almighty Allah. And this was the problem of the Arabs. The Arabs at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when he came to them, they used to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worship Almighty Allah. However, they used to associate someone else, used to worship the idols, thinking that the idols would bring them closer to Almighty Allah. So their main problem was a problem of shirk. And you can find, you can see by yourself that a lot of people nowadays, some of them associate a wife in worshiping Allah, some of them would associate a son with Allah, some of them would worship idols who do not speak, who do not hear, who do not harm, who do not benefit. Still, a lot of people have this issue of practicing, so they associate someone else with Almighty Allah. Here's the danger. The issue of divinity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need anyone with him. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need a son, he does not need a wife, he does not need ministers to help him, he does not need supporter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stands by himself. He is as-Samad. So when we associate someone else with Allah, this is one of the biggest insults we do to Almighty Allah, because we are degrading his status. These are acts of human beings that do not befit the majesty of Almighty Allah. And we Muslims know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may forgive all the sins of a human being if he dies and still practicing them, except only one sin, which is associating someone else in the worship of Almighty Allah. And therefore, the shaitan, the Satan, starts and focusing on this issue, because once a human being falls in this trap, he's finished off. He has no hope again, because the Satan knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forgive this sin at all. So as I said here, the Satan starts from the top of the traps, which is the trap of associating someone else with Almighty Allah. If the Satan succeeds, this human being is finished off. He becomes a follower of the Satan. So the Satan doesn't do any other effort, because this human being became a follower of the Satan. But if the Satan fails, he goes to a lower level, which is the trap of bid'ah, which means innovation in the religion. Because any innovation, which is addition or deletion, if you add something or you delete something from the religion, it is obvious that it will affect the whole life of a human being. It means that this religion, after some time, will change totally. If you start with a fraction of 1 digit, after a few years you will find many deviations coming on and added to the religion or deleted from the religion. So a religion would change after a few years or hundreds of years, or even 1,000 years, but the end result will be complete deviation. So therefore, the Satan focuses on this. The danger of bid'ah is that when a human being does a bid'ah, does an innovation in the religion, first, as if he is indirectly telling us that the Prophet ﷺ did not convey to us the whole message.